That should work. Then I'll do that. And I'll do that. Ah. Alright. I think everything should be set up just the way I want it. I can't be sure. Not sure yet. Yeah. I'm going to say yes. Let's look at this real quick. Sounds right. Okay. 1 second. I'm just gonna... Dude, that a fucking late. Anyways. So, how's everyone doing today? Or tonight? Wherever you're at. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're being blessed. Hope you're feeling blessed. Now, this late night stream, this late night guide, is on Twin Swords. Now, bit of a background story is that I've been playing Twin Swords ever since last YOG event, and I'm not talking about well, I guess if I say last YOG event, a lot of people are going to know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Toshi YOG event, and that event was brought to you by the very lovely Cyberstep, and I've been playing with Twin Swords ever since then. I never really got any class mag for Twin Swords back then because I was a little bit scrubby and thought that Wind Masteries and Knowledge mags were going to carry me through the entire content of Onigiri. Boy, was I sure wrong. But that didn't mean that I didn't use Twin Swords for the fun of it. Good Twin Swords that I used back then were just the guard Twin Swords, nothing extremely fancy, nothing really extravagant. Now, what does this have to mean? What does this all mean? This means that when it comes to Twin Swords, I've had experience with using them, considering that now we're sitting here on the Summer Festival of 2019 on part 2 of the Summer Festival, to be exact. So when it comes to Twin Swords, I know what I'm talking about. I know what's good, I know what's bad when it comes to Twin Swords in today's meta. Now, I will be the first to say I do not have a meta build when it comes to Twin Swords typically. That's because I'm a hybrid and I don't dedicate everything into Twin Swords like I used to. Now, I know the RTA skin is right here. Some people may confuse that for the Sword of Beginnings, but those are my pair of Rev 3s right here and White Brilliances right here. Both are 125 weapons. So you know that I know that you know that I know that I'm kind of dedicated to this whole Twin Sword thing. I did make a Dancing Water. Didn't come out too good on its Ornas or its grade. But hey, at least I got some HP rolls, some critical +5. Tesso is sitting here as a pretty good critical Tesso, average 21, but could have came out a lot worse. Wind Mastery and Fusion Bear, just because it is a part of it. Twin Sword Affinity does go up because of this Fusion Barrier built the way it particularly is. And Wind Mastery, I believe, gives me some extra attack power and some skill force as well, especially with being 130, gives me a good perk. But that's enough about my Twin Sword builds in general. Well, this one particular Twin Sword build in general. Now, that was just a quick example to show you that I do know what I'm talking about, and I know how to build a pretty competent Twin Sword build. Not the best Twin Sword build, but it can clear the Lancelot 130 dungeon, you know, with the Tanuki. It can clear that by just using my, I believe last time I was just using my Rep 3s. If not, I did strike him a couple of times using my White Brilliances, which do have Misty Massacre on them as well, but I'll explain that here in a bit. Now, for every up-and-coming Twin Sword user, let me teach you your very, very, very first lesson, is that you want multi-hit. Clear as day, as clear as I can put it, you want multi-hit. Twin Sword users in any RPG game, period, has been nothing but hitting the opponent multiple times and being that DPS that just climbs the scales. You are responsible for being the damage dealer of your team, of your party. You're the one that's going to hit the hardest. Why? Because you're the one that's hitting the most per second. Melee wise, now bows may have you beat when it comes to DPS in other games, but in Onigiri it's a little bit obscure, it's a little bit niche on how party systems work. Now, what does this mean? This means that for the love of God, do not do what some twin sword users are doing nowadays in putting single hit moves on their twin blades when it comes to their Ogies. Twin swords have really good Ogies. They're just excellent Ogies that are just to them alone, or even if they share it with other classes, they know how to make it shine. E.g., Mega Ice Blast Embers, Rain and Ice, and that is the two main elements that Twin Sword gets. That's their main elements. Their main element being Ice, and their secondary element being Rain. And since Mega Ice Blast Embers is both Ice and Rain, they benefit really well off of this, just like how Odachi benefits really well from using Mega Fire Burst Embers, since it's Fire and Wind, and Odachi is Wind and Fire. Now, that being said, you have to ask yourself, when you become a Twin Sword user, is there anything in particular that would draw you to this class? And the reason why I say it is because Twin Sword and Spear, they are the meta right now. They are the love child of Cyberstep. They are the two promised children. They are the two genius children. So you have to ask yourself, are you being Twin Sword user because it is the quote-unquote best, or is it because it's something that you want? Because let me tell you something here. If you want to become one of the best Twin Sword users, if becoming the best Twin Sword user is in your vision, I have no aspiration to become the best Twin Sword user at all. So basically this just allows me to be free in some of the Twin Sword builds that I use, whether they be good or bad. I find that out for myself. But if you want to be the best Twin Sword user, or the next best Twin Sword user, you want to be, you know, up there with like Raylan, if you want to be up there with just certain other Twin Sword users that have just gotten themselves to be stronger, like I know there's Raylan, there was Shiro was the best Twin Sword user right up before he quit, tanking, a little bit of a casual Twin Sword user, because he tells me he's playing casual now. So I'll just call him a casual Twin Sword user. But even he's a really good Twin Sword user in the way that he utilizes Twin Swords. Now, what else? So, you have to ask yourself, if you want to be the best Twin Sword user, those are the couple of people that you're going to have to match up against. Those are the people that you're going to have to say, I want to be like them one day. Because whenever I use Twin Swords, I use them for rain, I use them for lightning. I don't really use them for dark because I have a bow build that uses nothing but darkness. So, even though, tidbit of information, pro tip, Twin Swords darkness is the best darkness out of every class in the game. I will say that first and foremost. Me, I prefer to use dark bows just because that's what I'm used to. I'm used to using Restriction Geki, I'm used to using Cursed Arrow, but Twin Sword does have the best dark in the game. If you ever get a dark pair of Twin Swords, whether it be your Night Skies, whether it be your Supremes, what you're going to want to do is put Collapsing Blade 7 on them. 6 if you can manage it, but 7 will be the best option available. And the reason why Collapsing Blade is so good on Twin Swords okay, sure. Anyways, don't know who the Lost is. Anywho, Twin Sword has the best darkness. A lot of people have said it before me, and I'm just inclined to agree with them. Just because Collapsing Blade for them seems to take away a lot less Dura than what I've been told. I'm in your party, lol. Yeah, sorry. I got you muted for the time being, just so you wouldn't have to listen to me ramble. I didn't want to disrupt your game play. Anyways, Twin Sword has the best dark in the game, bar none. Just because Collapsing Blade, for them specifically, takes away the less Dura than any Collapsing Blade in the game, and it also does the most damage out of every single collapsing blade in the game between all the classes. Nice. Now anyways, when you do use twin swords, you will be hitting that L1 button a lot, or you will be holding down that L1 button a lot. You're also going to have to be required to be on your feet, because for a good twin sword stat build, vitality is probably something you're going to sacrifice later on, but then again, maybe not. Anyways, let me continue on, and let me make it into the little bit more organized version of the video. Now, similar how I did my Odachi video, I'm going to point out some really good twin sword titles. If you can ever get your hands on them, these are probably the twin sword titles you're going to want to get at some point. So I got to run over here. I gotta run. Gotta go to the front of the rocket. Then I gotta move over here. Let's go over to Amaratsu. She's probably gonna tell me a bunch of helpful stuff. I love Tanegashima. Now, the best twin sword title is currently locked up, but I will show you it anyway for the sake of showing you. Right here. Miyamoto Musashi, the best twin sword title that you can obtain. These are the requirements right here, the prerequisites to being able to obtain the title. Only 70 players are allowed to be in it. I know one of those 70 people that for sure have it. Now, as you can see, the title gives you 3 power points, 3 wisdom points. That's not really important. What matters is the twin sword affinity it gives you. It's just 60%. That's what you're going to want, most definitely. But however, it's locked up. So a lot of people are going to say, well then, Lex, I can't get that title because it's locked up, you motherfucker. So what are you going to choose next? What's next? Like, come on now. Well, I'm trying to find it, but I was perusing through the titles the other day, and I just so happened to see something that would be really, really good. Oh, it's here somewhere. Yeah, we'll find it. We're gonna find it. Alright. Hold on. We're just gonna... We going up. Oh, hey, look at that. Isugi Kenshin is available. Side note. If you can't pick up... This goes for any class. Any classes at all. If you don't see any good affinity titles for your class, twin sword users, talking to y'all just so y'all know, specifically in this video, pick up Isugi Kenshin. It is a decent title just for elements alone. As you can see, you get 10 impact element, 15 pierce element, 15 fire element, 15 holy element, and 15 slice. That can really help you later on, and it's just a good title. I like it. Isugi Kenshin is a good title. I thought it would never be open again, but evidently somebody hopped off of it to go get something else. This title is almost always nearly full for whatever reason. I don't really understand why, but if, you know, element is what you want as a twin sword user, and you don't really like affinity, and you're like, well, Flex, I don't really like affinity, I don't really care for it. I prefer to get the elements. I have enough affinity because I have the accessories. I have everything that gives me a high enough affinity. I don't need Miyamoto Musashi Flex. Then pick up Isugi Kenshin, because more than likely you're lacking in the element department. And now for those that can't get twin sword affinity out the wazoo because they, you know, don't have the accessories, I would have said Hattori Hanzo, but it's full as well. If you can ever find anybody that's not using these titles anymore, because it does at least give you some twin sword affinity, ask them, say, hey, you know, I'm looking to be a good twin sword user, can you please help me? And like trade them something for a title or something to try and at least try to get something off of them. Now, this is also Momochi Tanpa, is Dex plus 6, Power plus 4, Slice Element plus 5. This would be a decent choice, not the best. you would get 6 extra dex points, which may help you gain an extra point in critical. It may help you in other ways that are kind of obscure, I guess, but we're not running into many Twin Sword Affinity based titles, as you can see here. So as there's no real free Twin Sword Affinity title out right now for PS4 on the US server, this would probably be your best bet. This would probably be something that you're just going to want to choose. You know, Momochi Tanpa, it could be a good option. Now, Lupin is also another one that you could choose because it does give you some dex, it gives you some money boost and item drop boost. I do know certain Twin Sword users that I've played with that have this title. They're extremely good, whether they're using this title or not. So I guess they picked it just because of the dex and because of the money boost and item boost. So to those Twin Sword users that use this title, I applaud you. Because if I was a Twin Sword user purely, I wouldn't be choosing this title whatsoever. Not at all. But hey, if it works for you, it works for you. This is also an interesting title. Mori Montanari. It gives you 10 dex plus 1 wisdom. I remember choosing this title at one point just to see how it would work for my Twin Sword builds, and I was able to get 150 dex all together with the build that I was using. And it turned out alright. It turned out decent. Now, those 10 extra points in dex did help out my Twin Sword Affinity. It did. It helped it out. But it's nothing compared to Miyamoto Musashi, which I said earlier in the video was the best Twin Sword title to get. Now, let me teach y'all something, because this is something that I figured out on my own. If you ever want a title that has a stat requirement, let's say like Mori Motonari, right? Where it says base stat wisdom must be 100 or higher, I need 11. Now, let's say like, for whatever reason, you liked your title the way it was. Hey Heroic, how are you doing? Now let's say like you had this title right here, right? This is something that you wanted. You wanted this title, but you also like your stat pool the way it is. A trick you can do, which I'm pretty sure it's going to seem really obvious once I explain it, is that have a status reset point, 2 of them. You're going to want 2. Now, this seems a little bit expensive, but let me explain. Use one of the status point resets to get your wisdom to a stat base of 100 or higher, right? Pick up Mori Motonari right after that. And then you use your second status reset point allocation thing to put your stats back to how they were. What this is going to do for you is that now you just took the title and you don't need to have 100 wisdom. Now this can apply for any title that says, oh, you need to have, let's say for example there was a title out that said you needed 100 power and 100 dex base in order to get this title, but you won't want 100 power in your stat build. That's a interesting way of going about it, basically cheating the system. I did that once upon a time. That's how I got Mori Motonari, and I didn't have to suffer with god-awful stats, just to let y'all know. And so we go down the list to try and find other Twin Sword titles, but doesn't seem to be much. Isakawa Gomon seems to be another one. Only reason why I wouldn't really agree with this one is while it does give you fire, Twin Sword's fire options are Crimson Crosscut, Mega Fire Blast Embers, and Lance. Which Mega Fire Blast Embers for Twin Sword will be really good if you have a good Himono Mag, because that gives you fire and wind. So for your Twin Sword users out there that are looking for fire and wind in a build, Himono Mag is a good option. Fusion Bear is also a good option as well, but that's more of a universal mag. But it's still a good mag for people to have. Let's see what other titles here, guys, because here's also another one, because it does give you some dex, but it does lowball the dex on you a little bit. And this one is Amakusa Shiro. Let's see here. If people didn't all steal this title, this may be a decent title, but then again, it gives you sword affinity, so it probably wouldn't be something that you want to go for initially. You see, it's kind of greedy. As y'all seen me click through this list, y'all see a lot of sword titles, and it's always been my running joke that Cyberstep will always forever, ever and ever love sword. This is also another decent title that you could pick up, Takeda Motsugai. It's 106 out of 200 players have it. It's 5 decks, 2 power, 2 vit. Can help you out a bit there. This one can also kind of help you out in an obscure way, only because of the Pierce element, really. So I wouldn't, you know, choose that as your first viable option. If this title is ever available and you're bow / twin, but you're a little bit more on the bow side than the twin sword side, this is also a good viable option because you get vit, you get bow affinity, and you get dex. So you'll get a little bit cheeky extra health. You'll get some dexterity points, so that'll help out your twin swords and your bow, and you get some bow affinity. Let's see here. Oh, goodness, guys. Just not a lot of good ones out there. Che Guevara is also, or Guevara, I think that's how you say it, Che Guevara. This is also a good title. I've seen a lot of twin sword users with this as well. You know, it's +6 dex, critical +2, so it's going to help out your twin sword base affinity anyway. Getting these 6 extra dex points may send you up another critical point, so it's like Che Guevara is giving you extra affinity +3 critical. You know, this is a really good one. I've seen a lot of people with it, only because Miyamoto Musashi is not available. So I think this just about covers all the decent titles that you could have. If anybody knows about a title, like even something as obscure as Bentin Kozo, bring it to my attention and I'll be really happy to talk about it. Now, good twin sword builds. What would be viable as a good twin sword build? Like with your mags, what do you want to put on your dancing waters? What do you want to put on your dancing water fuse? Okay? Now, this may seem pretty obvious, but there's also a lot of new players entering Onigiri. But I would recommend, unlike with Odachi, I would recommend Fated Contractor. It's really good because it can give you extra dex points and extra slice, both of which twin swords will benefit from. It can also give you extra HP and extra SP. This is really good because as a twin sword user, you're going to be squishy. You're going to be very squishy. And so any extra HP that you can pick up from the Divine Fated Contractor will help you out ultimately. And if you so happen to get extra slice, this will work for you as well, because a lot of your moves are slice based, such as Fujin Circle Dance, Slice and Wind, Misty Massacre, Slice and Rain. And such really good twin sword moves have slice in them. Collapsing Blade, Misty Massacre, things like that. Like those would be ornamentations that you could bring into an Oni mode, and that slice element would carry into the Oni mode. And that's why Fated Contractor is really good. It is a staple, I believe, for all twin sword users to put Fated Contractor on their mags. Now, as I said in my Odachi guide video, experiment with Heavenly Shield if you want to, because Heavenly Shield will be a good way for you maybe to get some extra element. For example, this isn't a twin sword mag. This isn't a twin sword mag, but I wanted to show it because I got it today. Now, I just made this Wicked Wolf fuse today, right? As you can see, it has double Heavenly Shield on it. Now, everybody that is a part of the meta in Odachi will let you know that do Fated Contractor, because you'll get extra slice, you'll get extra crit, you'll get extra HP, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Now, I don't agree with that, because if you can get extra if you can get extra of any of the positive elements for Wicked Wolf class, the Odachi class, then why not? Why not do it if you have other mags that already give you the crit and already give you slice? So I decided to do double rolls of Heavenly Shield, and I got Mountain and I got extra Wind. Now, for Odachi, this is really good. Why? Because Ilios Hades is a Mountain Wind weapon. So I essentially have an Ilios Hades mag, because it goes hand in hand with the weapon. I get 45 Wind, which is only 5 Wind less than a Tempest. And it's only 54 chakra, as opposed to the 55 chakra you get from your standard Tempest. It's a really good grade, you know, really good mountain. It can fit in some builds. Now, over here is my very embarrassing Grade 2 Wicked Wolf Magatama fused, but this Magatama came before this one. But Sure, y'all are all very intelligent and can deduce that very easily. This one came out with extra holy and 24 extra wind instead of 15 wind. So this one came with 54 wind, right? Well, now it's at the same element level as the Tempest. And I have 15 fire and 16 holy. And obviously I get fire with this fuse as well. So what does this mean? Now, while Dancing Water Magatama Fuse over here didn't get any positive elements, that doesn't mean that you won't. That doesn't mean that you may not get bad rolls, because I know people who are so lucky with Heavenly Shield, they'll roll it and their sword, and for every single time they roll Heavenly Shield, they'll get like 22 lightning and 16 sword element. So if you have the removal stones, I would recommend taking off maybe one Faded Contractor if it's a really useless one. Like if say like it was a roll that only gave you like 17 extra SP or 17 extra HP and you don't really mind losing it, try throwing Heavenly Shield on there and see if it gives you extra rain, or see if it even gives you extra ice. Because if you know that it's going to be a while till you get your Tempest mags, and this is for both 105 users and fused users, if you know the next step of mag you're going to get is going to be a while until you can obtain it, I would highly recommend try throwing Heavenly Shield on there and see if you can't crank out some extra element. It would also be the same thing with Unblinking Eye. So let me explain. The typical meta build is to get 3 of your 105s or 3 of your fuse, right? Okay, so if you're going to go with that concept, tell yourself this. Well, I just rolled on, let's say like if you're a 105 user, right? And you throw double Faded Contractor on 1, and let's say it came out the best possible scenario realistically. Say like you got 2 rolls of critical plus 7, and then you got slice plus 11, slice plus 12. Let's say it didn't give you any extra HP. Well, you just got 14 extra critical points, and I said 11 slice and 12 slice, right? So you got 23 slice and a heck of a lot of crit. So let's say like, okay, I don't want to, with my next mag, I don't want to do that much. So let's say like you throw 2 Confining Terrors on there, right? Because that's less chakra, it's 1 chakra point extra, and well, less than Faded Contractor, so it'll only be 2 extra chakra. So let's say like Confining Terror gives you something good, like plus 6 critical, and then the next roll gives you some extra skill force and some extra wisdom. Okay, that's decent, right? At least that's a little bit more decent than what you got beforehand. So let's continue on with this. So let's see, you just got 14 plus 6, so you have 20 extra crit on your build, and let's say like you're around 33 crit, or even 35 crit like my current build is. That's good. You're honestly good. 30 plus crit for any Twin Sword user is the dream. 30 is your magical number. Why is it your magical number? Because you're multi-hit. You will hit a crit. Believe me, you will. You don't need 50 plus crit in order to be a good Twin Sword user. You don't need it. Just trust me on that fact. You do not need that. Continuing on. Now we have the third, let's just say 105 in this scenario, right? Well, if you have 3 105s and the other 2 came out really, really well, which this is Onigiri, and you have random rolls, so that's probably not how it's going to turn out for you, just being honest. But let's say like it did happen. Let's say like you just had the best rolls of 105s ever to grace God's Green Earth on Onigiri. Well, every 105 mag comes with 10 critical force. This is any different for between all the classes. So let's say like you have 200 crit force, so you're going to be hitting 2 times the damage that you would normally do on a crit. Okie dokie. One of my friends was telling me good night, and if they're still watching the stream, good night. And you have a good night. Now, something that's really good, something that you want to do. Let me just recollect my thoughts here because that kind of distracted me a little bit. Now, so you have 200 crit force, right? Well, let's say like you want to throw Unblinking Eye on there because you just want some extra crit force. You want to squeeze out some extra critical force. So, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? You throw, because Unblinking Eye, I can tell you straight from memory, is that it can give you some dex, it can give you some low Twin Sword affinity of like 7% at the max, some bow affinity at the same percentage, But the sweet thing about Unblinking Eye is that it can give you 10 to 15 critical force. That is really good. So let's say like in a perfect world, you get a high roll of 15 critical force and 14 critical force. So you just got extra 29 critical force on top of the base 10 critical force that you would get from a dancing water. So that's 39 crit force. Congratulations, you're now 9 points higher in crit force than your typical Tempest. Now you won't match the the extra attack a Tempest gives you, and it won't match the skill force a Tempest gives you, but you're well off. With those 3 105s alone, you could clear the rest of the game. Just so as long as you had your guards, so as long as you have your appropriate weapons for the appropriate dungeons, you wouldn't even need a Vanguard. Like, you could probably just deck Mephi, Purple Mephi, right in the face the first moment you meet him. Be really easy, you know? So that would be nothing for you to worry about. And that's why I want to let a lot of people know that whenever you're building something, if you want to be the next top dog, if you want to be the next best thing, you have to be innovative. You have to think outside the box. You cannot allow yourself to be restricted. Now, I know it's scary walking outside of the meta. I know it. Because obviously I've taken that path of walking outside of the meta. I'm kind of like in between. Like, I'm doing things that are according to the meta, and then I'm doing some things that are not according to the meta. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in that wibbly wobbly line of just in between, and I'm just doing things according to how I want to do things. Now, all of that considered, taking all of that into consideration, that is just an example of how I would personally do twin swords. That doesn't mean that you have to do what I said that you have to do. In all my guide videos, I think I stressed the point pretty clearly that this is what I recommend. This is not what I command. Not like I have command over any of you guys anyway, but it's something I stress because I don't want people thinking that, oh, Vlex just thinks that he's the best twin sword user around. Hell no, I'm not, nor will I ever be. Now, for twin swords purely, this isn't how I would run a pure twin sword build. If you want to be a pure twin sword character, this is how I would run it. I would put Dex obviously at 100. Power, I would make sure it would equal 120, just because of the fact of Rev 3s exist. Other weapons exist that kind of, well, I think it's only the Lancelot weapons that base themselves off of power, but I would do it. I would run 120 power, and then I would run 75 mind. Easy pickings there. I'd run 75 mind, and then I would run high wisdom as well, and then I would put the rest of the points in the vet. So like wisdom points, I'd probably run like somewhere in the 80s, just as a good average, somewhere around 84 to 85. That's what I would probably run in my pure twin sword build. And then vitality, I would make sure it's a decent level, but nowhere near like god tier levels that Spear would have their vitality. Now, there are other twin sword users out there that know the stats better than I do, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm just letting you know how I would run twin swords. There's obviously people out there that are going to know it better than me. But if I were pure twin swords, this is what I would do. But since I'm not, let me tell you from a hybrid twin sword perspective. Why is this particular stat line build so good for twin swords? Well, I have 130 power starting off, so I'm automatically going to benefit from what Sovereign Twin Blades Bellum Reverence 3 says I can benefit from. Obviously, I have some good vit, so yeah. I have high wisdom, high mind. Okay, so that benefits me. And I also have high dex. So I have 130 power, 132 dex. I don't particularly think that having a high power affects twin swords all too much. I haven't really seen it. Just going to be honest with you, I haven't really seen it. Dex seems to matter most of all, which that's pretty damn obvious. But I'm saying that only because I don't want people to be misguided I don't want people to go, oh, I'm pure twins. I'm going to put 100 points into power, 100 points into dex. Because if you're pure twins, you're killing yourself there. As long as your power equals up to like maybe 115 to 120, you're perfectly fine. Even honestly, I know I just said I would run it with 120 power, but if you have the right affinity mag, like if you have the accessories and you have the Miyamoto Musashi title, you won't even need the 120 power for your Rev 3s. You won't. You can completely disregard even getting 120 power. But if you don't have access to it, I would recommend doing 120 power for your twin swords, your Lancelot twins anyway. That way they benefit the most. You know, you get your highest profit instead of mediocre profit. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because you won't have the title. You won't have Miyamoto Musashi, or you won't have the accessories, or the mags you're using just won't give you the affinity or the power that you need. So if you can get, for instance here, the extra 1500 attack, quote unquote, and if you're level 120 or more, you get plus 10% attack. But if you get power 120 or more, you get 1500 additional attack. That's a lie. It gives you more than that. That's just something weird that Cyberstep has done. Now, this is what you're going to want to do. You know, either 120 power to 110 power. Either way, it doesn't honestly matter. Pick it how you want to pick it. Play the game how you want to play the game. And the only reason why I'm saying power is just such an iffy stat for twins is because if you have 120 power, you're going to have to sacrifice in other areas, more than likely Vit. And those couple of extra Vit points that you could have put into Vitality can possibly save you from dying to a boss. Now, maybe you put those extra points into Vitality, but find that because you don't have 120 power, you can't kill the boss because you don't have the affinity, you don't have the accessories. So in that case, go with 120 power. I hope I was kind of clear with that. Sometimes I know it can be a little bit complicating to keep up with how fast I'm talking and what I'm saying for you to do. Now, a more say the controller died. Hold on. It's gonna want to kill itself in my presence. How dare you? Now, a more clear and concise way. So, where do you get your recipes? Right? I've been talking about Dancing Water Fused, I've been talking about Dancing Waters, and I've been barely mentioning Tempest. So, where do you get them? Right? Vlex, where do you get these mags? Well, with all your 105s, your 117s, and your 128s, you have to get the recipes to be able to make the mags. I know, you can't just identify the mag and go and get it. So, where are you going to get your Dancing Water Fused? I mean, your Dancing Water Base. You're going to get the recipe from... Now, I just so happen to be here in Tanegashima, but let's do... If it were to get it... First, you're going to go here to Monokrashima. I've always called it Monokrashima. I don't know if that's the legitimate way that you would say it. Okay, you're going to go up to Popobi here, right? Right here. Ah, not Inari. It's called Onra Island. This is where you get your twin sword title. Not your twin sword title, your recipe. Your Dancing Water. This is where you're going to get it. Right here. This is for your 105. Don't forget about this island. This island is where you will get your 105 recipe. Now, what's next? Fused, right? Where are you going to pick that up? You pick up the Dancing Water Fused recipe from 2 different locations, and those are both located on the moon. You can either go to Lacus Mortis and grind like hell through 30 minutes a run, or 20 minutes a run if you're really good, and get the recipe there. if you want to suffer that way, or you can do a bajillion runs of Benkei Factory and pray that the Skyrending fuse recipe doesn't get in your way from trying to get the Dancing Water fuse recipe. So those are your two locations for your fuse. Now, as I said in my Odachi Guide video, where do you think you're going to get your Tempest recipe? You're going to get it from Shootin' Doji and Yellow Dragon Spire Purity Space. That's just the thing. That's what you're going to have to do, my guys and gals. That's what you're going to have to do to go and get your recipes. Now, you're going to have to grind. And it is going to suck. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. That's how this game operates. That's how this game wants you to be. That's why I have right below in my bar, grinding is fun. Because you're going to have to find grinding is fun in this game. Especially for twin swords, because sometimes the recipes for the weapons that you want won't particularly drop. Like when I was going for my white brilliances, they didn't really drop for me all too well. I had to do like 20 runs of Blitz Oni, 30 runs of Blitz Oni before it finally decided to drop them for me. Even then, I think that's wrong. I think I did way more than 30 runs of Blitz Oni before it finally decided to drop them for me. Now, if you know your 105s, you know your 117s, and you know your Tempest, let's basically say the stats that a Dancing Water will give you. It'll give you 10 critical force. You will get roughly 60 skill force, I believe, per Magatama. I don't want to say that's a definite. Just go to, I can use a mag here. It's a 105. I can use it as an example. Aha. You'll get 60 skill force on your mag, and you'll get 40% extra skill force for your Dancing Water if you're under 50% HP. You'll get 10 ice, not 10 ray, but you'll get 10 ice. You'll get -5 fire, I believe. Yes, you'll get -5 fire, and you'll get a critical force of +10. The Dancing Water Magatama fuse is right here in front of our faces, so we know that we'll get 70% twin sword skill force, and if my HP is under 50%, I will get 50% more. So I'll get a total skill force of 120%. That's nice. I get 30% ice element. I get -15 fire. Ouch. I'll get +15 rain, but I get -10 lightning. Yucky. Critical force +10. Critical force +20 and cooldown cut +10. Now, basically, look at this mag, and then you have your Tempest. You'll get 120% twin sword skill force. You'll get, I think it is right here. Okay, so you'll get 50% extra. If your health is under 50%, you'll get plus 50% twin sword skill force. I know I'm using the Tempest here of Wicked Wolf to basically show you what it's meant to be for Dancing Water. I'm just using it as a way of looking at things now. So you'll get 50 ice, you'll get 30 rain, so you'll get -20 lightning and -30 fire. You'll get 30 crit force, 15 cooldown cut, and if your level's 130 or more, you'll get 2500 attack. That's a lie. It gives you like 3k attack. To completely disregard it, saying that I'm going to get 4222 extra attack if I equip this Tempest, because I have Inevitable Last Stand on there, and it's giving me some extra attack power. Now, all that into consideration, I've told you where you need to get your mags and what your mags give you. So, what are the skills that you're going to want to atypically put on your twin swords? You're going to want to, again, I'm going to stress this, you're going to want to put multi-hit moves on your twin swords. You're going to want to. Multi-hit all the way for twin swords, all day, every day. Never put a single hit skill on your twin swords. That's bad. Bad. No, never do that. So what are some good twin sword skills? Misty Massacre, Collapsing Blade, like I've said before. Swift Bolt Crucifix is also a very good skill if you have a lightning twin sword build. A very good Ogi, Mega Violet Strikes, very good. I would highly recommend it because it's Slice and Lightning. And if you are going to put it on any weapon, do put it on your White Brilliance or White Flash when you have them. It's really good. Honestly, I would really recommend it. It's just beautiful to have Mega Violet Strikes. Easily accessible. In my opinion, it'll out DPS Mega Bursting Thunderburst. You know, the Thunderburst Embers, because it's Mountain and Lightning. And it's kind of meh. White Brilliance will obviously benefit the most, and Twin Swords will automatically benefit the most because you know you'll be doing things like Faded Contractor on most of your mags that you want to Orna for Twin Swords, so you'll get that extra slice element anyway. So Mega Violet Strikes will benefit the most. And I'm just trying to think of anything else that I can tell y'all that I've seen. Twin Blade Slash is a good move. It's Wind and Slice. It's a good multi-hit move for clearing out mobs, and if you so choose, it can clear some bosses that are weak to wind as well. I'd recommend using Blue Fang Blade, because Twin Sword does get that, but I'd recommend using Blue Fang Blade instead, because most of the time you're probably going to be squishy-ish as a Twin Sword user. So Blue Fang Blade gives you that available option to have ranged, and you can just spam Blue Fang Blade for days like Sword does, and you can hit the opponent. It'll be so easy. There's a Twin Sword user out there that has a video of him capping with Blue Fang Blade, and that will be like higher DPS, I believe, than Twin Sword Slash can ever do. If a good Twin Sword user can prove me wrong on that, I would sure love for them to do that, because Twin Blade Slash is like one of my favorite moves in this game, just because it looks so basic, so it's so beautiful just to see the Twin Swords get set off, you know? It's a really beautiful skill, in my opinion. That's what I'm getting at. Now, all that being said, I believe I've covered all the content that you need to know about Twin Swords. There's not that many titles for Twin Swords as there is opposed to other classes. Even Odachi, I believe, has more affinity titles in Amaterasu than Twin Swords do, which kind of sucks, to be honest with you. So, being a good Twin Sword user is not easy. I will say that. I believe myself to be a good Twin Sword user, not top tier Twin Sword user, not by any means, but I will say I'm good. That's it. Just I'm a good Twin Sword user, nothing special. I would say I'm just an average good Twin Sword user. That being said, if y'all have any questions about Twin Swords that I can't answer, I would highly recommend, or if I didn't get I didn't cover something that you wanted to know a lot about Twin Swords, I would highly recommend finding good Twin Sword users, like Twin Sword users that you know at least follow the guidelines I said in this video, and you know, that put Faded Contractor on their mags, that know what they're doing. Basically, if you find a Twin Sword user that's high level and they clearly know what they're doing, they're really competent, I would recommend getting information off of them, because I don't know everything there is about Twin Sword, and they'll know more tricks than I do. They'll know more tricks of the trade, and they'll just be good for you. And that's what I really want. I want the Onigiri community to benefit ultimately from everything that I'm telling y'all. I don't want to steer y'all in the wrong direction. That's why you've heard me twice now say, like, hey, if there's a Twin Sword user out there that can tell me different, or if there's somebody out there that can tell me something different, please let me know, and I'll probably mention it in a future video, because right now there's nobody watching this stream. But if there somebody was and they told me, I would say, hey, they know what they're talking about, pay attention to them about that particular section about Twin Swords, not what I'm telling you. That being said, y'all have a blessed day. If you feel like there was something I didn't quite cover in this video, put a comment below, like, you know, in the comment section of YouTube, and let me know. I saw somebody just join the stream right now. I'm not necessarily closing the video. I was going to close it because nobody was watching in particular. Do you have any questions about Twin Swords? Because I covered about maybe 50 minutes worth of content about Twin Swords so far, but I have no problem with restating any questions, like, you know, the answers to the questions that typically are posed for how do you become a good Twin Sword user. hope that person is drumming up a question for me. I will say something else that's probably relevant to the topic, kind of relevant to the topic. What's another good twin sword skill that I just love? Sunlight Strike. As you can see, I put that on my White Brilliance. It does get negative impact on the White Brilliance, and Sunlight Strike is impact and holy, but it's 70% holy and 30% negative, like 30% impact. So that's a good skill. It's not going to hurt it too much. I think I hit like 2 million damage in Oni Satan mode with it, but I need a better twin sword holy build for it to be maximized. I know the Makami Max are coming out, but I want a good holy build before Makami. You know what I'm saying? I just want a good build. I don't want to depend on event mags to be the reason why I get max of an element. You know? I want to get there on my own merit. I know that seems kind of contradictory because I'm using a Fusion Bear and Wind Mastery in some of my builds. I'll say a lot of my builds use my Fusion Bear, and some of my builds use that Wind Mastery, but you know, I've built those mags up. They're not your typical Fusion Bear. It's not your typical Wind Mastery. This build stats, like the current build I have right now, you know, when I'm holding my Rev 3s, it's 155 rain, 221 crit force. Oh, that's such a weird crit force. I want to fix it so much. Positive 10 ice. Woot woot. I do not know why I am getting such low ice. That doesn't make any sense as I get 30 ice. 90. I understand. There's something I'm missing. Hold on. It's 10 ice right there, right? But I'm wearing a fused, and the fused gives me my Wind Mastery. Aha! Found the culprit. I found the culprit. Wind Mastery here gives me negative 50 ice, but my Rumi gives me positive 30 ice. This gives me 30 ice. But yeah, if I was using this for ice, which like any pure twin sword user would be using ice over rain for a lot of their dungeons. But if I were to use ice with twin sword right now, which I don't have a lot of ice for my twin sword, I would probably choose like a Mag of Knowledge. Yeah, I probably would pick a Mag of Knowledge right now, just as a good fit. I would lose some attack, but I would gain a lot of ice element. But yeah, this build is clearly meant for this right here, Misty Massacre. Okay. Well, it appears that person didn't have any questions. Maybe he'll watch the video again later and receive all of his answers. That being said, I thank you all very much for tuning in. Y'all be blessed now. Y'all have a wonderful night, day, wherever it is. Whatever it is. Kind of stumbling over my own words here. Maybe because it's so late at night. But whatever time of day or night it is, wherever you are at, y'all enjoy it. If you're supposed to be asleep because you have a test tomorrow, go to sleep. Take that test, get an A on it, come back and play some Onigiri, knowing full and well that you did a really good job at school or college or whatever it is that you're doing. If y'all all have work tomorrow, like I do early in the morning, get some good amount of sleep. I got some sleep earlier on in the night, so I won't need to get any more sleep, because if I get more sleep now, I'm just going to oversleep because I got enough sleep. But now I'm just digressing because I'm trying to hit that hour marker for whatever godforsaken reason. So I'm going to end my stream right here. You'll all have a very good night. Thank you very much for tuning in.